What happens when a fiercely independent alternative weekly meets a mission-driven media group with millions in backing? In Lansing, Michigan, it might just save local journalism. A new chapter begins for one of Michigan's boldest local papers, and it's being written by journalists and, believe it or not hedge funds. Welcome to E&P Reports. I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. Today we're diving into one of the most talked about moves in Michigan media this year, the acquisition of City Pulse by the Michigan Independent Media Group. Some call it MIMG. Founded in 2001, the Pulse, Berl Schwartz was my customer. I've traveled there. Berl, I got to ask you the most important question of the show. How come I'm looking older and fatter and you're looking younger and skinnier, sir? What is this?
I must be looking at the wrong guy. You look great to me, Mike.
Well, it's an honor to have you on, Berl. You've always been a leader in the alternative industry, a fixture, by the way, one of the best alternatives I have ever worked with. But I also have another gentleman on the show, a new friend of E&P, Jason Franklin, general partner at Michigan Independent Media Group, and one of the nation's most active philanthropic leaders in supporting journalism and democracy. The problem is, Jason, if you're an industry leader, I never heard of you until this purchase. So you are a very well-kept secret, or I'm just not out there seeing what's going on. So with your permission, Jason, I want to ChatGPT to ask it about you so we can learn who the heck you are. And here's what it says. Dr. Jason Franklin, PhD, is the general partner of the Michigan Independent Media Group, which is the new owner of City Pulse, our topic for today. You are a nationally recognized expert in philanthropy and civic engagement. You are the founder of Katisas Capital in Grand Rapids and have directed more than $550 million in philanthropic investments focused on democracy, media, and social justice. You've held leading roles across several national and Michigan-based philanthropic networks and initiatives, championing the role of local journalism in strengthening democratic participation. And it's so good to have you two gentlemen here together. In an era of media consolidation and newsroom cutbacks, what does it look like when the good guys buy a paper? Stay with us. We're going to learn more about that right after this.
This episode of E&P Reports is sponsored by Elite Insights, the trusted partner behind some of the most successful Best Of campaigns in local media today. Elite Insights provides an easy-to-administer, self-serve platform that helps publishers generate new revenue, grow audience engagement, and capture valuable first-party data, all through the power of community recognition. Their software is designed specifically for local media companies, with user-friendly tools that make it simple to launch, promote, and monetize Best Of contests year after year. Publishers love how quickly these programs deliver results, not just for their bottom line, but also for deepening relationships with readers and local businesses. Elite Insights believes in supporting local journalism through tools that actually work, one publisher partnership at a time. To learn more, visit eliteinsights.io. That's eliteinsights.io.
All right, let's start with you, Berl, if that's okay. Let's start with the obvious. After more than 2 decades at the helm of a very successful alternative weekly. By the way, Berl, you and I have chatted before in the green room on this. You had multiple offers at a time. We don't have to go in the background of that. You're making some money there. What made this the right moment for you to personally and professionally decide to offer up the paper and let someone else take the helm?
Well, I know I don't look it, but you can add also 30 years in the business before I started City Pulse. I needed an exit plan. I didn't have a clue what it was. And one day, out of the blue, I got a phone call from one of the people associated with the group that hadn't even formed yet. He said, there are a bunch of rich progressives who want to buy and save local newspapers. And I told him about your paper, they like your brand, they like the fact that you're in the state capitol. And that opened the door. 3 years later, we negotiated a deal that I think I know is good for me and I think, truly believe will be very good for the future of City Pulse and Lansing.
Jason, do you concur? What made City Pulse a must have publication? And what about the Pulse? How did that align with MIMG's mission and goals? What are those mission and goals? And how does the Pulse, fit into your puzzle there?
Yeah, I mean, when we launched the Michigan Independent Media Group, um, the real goal was about how do you preserve local reporting? How do you boost civic engagement in Michigan? And we see those two dynamics as inextricably linked. We know, and all the research shows that where you have strong local media, you have better and more informed voters and more informed citizens who are more engaged in their own communities. And so that's what we've been building. City Pulse is the second newspaper we have purchased in Michigan. We're just getting going. And when you look around the state, the City Pulse is one of the biggest weeklies in the entire state. And being in Lansing, a core part of the community, and Berl and I talked about it, there's both the chance for coverage of state news, but more importantly, sometimes what happens in states all across the country is the capital city doesn't actually get covered as a city and a community. So it's also about boosting the local coverage in Lansing for people who live in Lansing to understand what is going on in Lansing.
I got to give kudos to Berl. The Pulse has always been a distinctive voice, fierce, award winning, unapologetic. You took on some issues over the years, Berl. How did you vet potential buyers, and why did MIMG become the place you felt comfortable with to turn over your brand, sir?
Well, I've been fortunate in the last 3 years to have multiple offers, and I got to know all of the people who were making those offers. And in the course of discussion, they revealed themselves as, for reasons really having to do with their organization, as not necessarily the ones who would carry on the independent mission of City Pulse to the best that I was hoping for. And, Michigan Independent Media Group has independent in the name. I came to know Jason. I knew the fellow who had approached me and liked and respected him for many years. I'm getting to know the other principals, and what I am finding is that they are not afraid to embrace and continue what City Pulse is, but they also want to take it beyond what I've been able to do with it. I'm a journalist first. I've learned the business side of the business the hard way. And I have not begun to do what can be done with City Pulse. I think it's about halfway to where it can be in this community.
Moving forward. All right, I want to get some background from Jason, if I may. MIMG,
Mhm.
what is buried lead media? And let me explain to the audience, that's lead the proper way, LEDE.
Well, Buried Lead Media is the operating company. So the media group is where we're raising both philanthropic and investment capital to then be able to buy papers and invest in building them. Buried Lead we set up as an independent company. It's 100% owned by the media group to be the operating support. And then each newspaper we buy will be running independently as its own local newspaper, supported by the operating company and the media group statewide. And Buried Lead was obviously a little double entendre that we all laughed when we came up with and said, we kind of like this idea where, because the impulse for the media group is really at that intersection, as I said, of civic engagement and journalism. How do you keep local journalism, but also how do we raise philanthropic capital to expand and support it so it also supports civic engagement, which it has done for centuries, but the changing dynamics of journalism mean we actually need new types of support to be able to sustain it for the next century.
Yeah, but
For me,
who's Jason Franklin?
Yeah, for me.
What sucked you into this weird ecosystem of trying to find the sustainable models of local news, sir?
I have been a community organizer since I was 14 years old. I started a group called Oregon Students Supporting Education, outraged at budget cuts in the public schools in Oregon. And along with teachers and parents and others, we actually won against the proposed cuts back in the 90s. And I've been convinced ever since then that local engagement can change the world because it had changed mine. And I've spent, 30 plus years now raising and moving money and investing in local organizing. I actually went to George Washington University, studied communications and journalism. One of my professors I was just talking to a few weeks ago said I'm coming full circle back to some of my journalism courses of my undergrad years. So my work has been for decades in the nonprofit and philanthropic space. I've been in Michigan now for 10 years. I came here as the to be a professor at Grand Valley State University, and 5 years ago started my own philanthropic advising practice. But I've always had part of my work looking at local civic engagement and really looking at other models around the country. If we don't take care of local news, local civic engagement gets hurt. And that was really the argument that brought me in and has fired me up to be investing in the media group.
If I may offer some full disclosure, I graduated from GW in 1979. I was president of the SAE House that was at 21st and G next to Quigley's. You were likely there after they tore it down. But there's still a red lion on Pennsylvania Avenue where has my graffiti in the men's room when I went back and visited a few years ago. I want to circle back to Berl now because I know this paper. Um, Berl, have there been moments, because you and I got to know each other, a while ago before the hedge funds really started taking over and the world changed around you as you watched it all just around you. You stayed independent. Were there moments when you were publishing stuff that you kept saying to yourself, thank God I don't have a board. Thank God I'm not reporting to a bunch of, people that I have to please and placate. Thank God I can make some noise and do my job. Did you feel that way, like the blessing of being an independent guy in a state capital?
Yes. I was always a good journalist, but I never was happy working for the big organizations I worked for, the last of which was Scripps Howard newspapers. Not to knock them, but they're a mainstream organization. They're not out there taking risks. I've always felt since I got into this racket that we're here for a purpose greater than just filling space between ads. And now, being independent, being my own boss has meant, I can do what I want to do. But like anybody who owns a business, you work for everybody. You work for your employees and you work for your audience. And I have
And
learned,
your advertisers.
and your advertisers, and I have learned that, you can do what you want to do, but if you want to do it tomorrow, you better listen to these people. I've made some mistakes that I went beyond what this market was ready for. I had to learn from them. And so it's a balancing act, but I think, I think the reason we may have attracted Jason's group, the reason we've held on in Lansing, I think, is Lansing has come to appreciate that we do take risks, that we will report stories. Maybe they're ahead of their time, but it sinks in with our readers that we're out there a little ahead of and not in lockstep with the mainstream media. Nothing pleases me more than when a few months later they catch up with the story we wrote about for weeks or months. Nothing pleases me more when we have a real effect on our community. When the mayor calls me and said, we're going to do something about that. that really makes it all worthwhile.
All right, I'm going to circle back to Jason for a second and dig a little bit more into MIMG. I did a little research. You have both philanthropic money, you have impact capital. You seem to be pretty well damn funded. You come from the outside, which is good. I mean, some of the most successful now media operators are those that have swooped in from different sectors of our, I should say, of the ecosystem and found their place. Do you see an operational sustainable model here? This is, and you most probably know that word now is being bantered around. I get asked all the time. I get on more stages. What's the secret sauce to sustainability? No, my answer is simple. Just tell good stories. Every success we get, it starts from the bottom up. If the paper has lost the ability, or the news organization, to tell a good story, and then everything falls apart. Do you see operational sustainability? You don't seem like you're over 60 like me. You look like you got a future in this thing. Are you gun-ho and positive about what you're doing, Jason?
I am. I mean, first of all, to Berl's credit, City Pulse is operationally stable now. He didn't need to sell. It could continue on. And Yale Expositor, which we bought earlier this year, another paper we're talking with right now, I came as a skeptic. We've all heard the stories of the death of journalism. And then you really look, so many of the local papers in Michigan that still exist, over half have closed over the last century. But the ones that exist have found their footing. To me, I first agree. It starts with the good stories. It starts with the reporting. If you don't have a good product to be able to be putting out there, it is A, not worth supporting, and B, not viable to continue to support. I have absolutely no interest, and we have no interest in, taking apart these papers for parts like some of the vulture investors have done. It's actually the opposite. And so part of why when we put together the media group, we've raised philanthropic capital as well as investment capital, is to be able to have two different types of funds to invest in these papers, where you can invest resources and you don't need a big return out of them. Instead, you can invest those resources back into the paper and growing it, reaching new audiences, having more reporting, expanding the coverage into different areas. I think there really is a path forward. And we've also seen, there's polling that just came out 2 weeks ago. The only two sources of information that people still trust are their local TV reporting, and their local newspapers have a higher trust than distrust ratio. And we have to be building on that.
Jason, you call yourself Michigan, and the first M, believe it or not, is Michigan. So will the M change to other states? Are you going to be another player that starts looking at, I was telling Berl before the show that we're reporting on a lot of these stories because I believe this is a time. It was Warren Buffett who said, when people are fearful, be greedy. When people are greedy, be fearful. And you're kind of like seeing some value here and looking things over. So will we be stepping beyond the borders of Michigan, Jason?
Honestly, I don't think so. The Michigan Independent Media Group, the donors and the investors are mostly Michiganders. And the Michigan Civic Education Fund, that's been a lead investor, is a nonprofit that raises and invests money here in Michigan. What I do hope is that there will be parallel efforts, similar efforts in other states. And we've seen some, they're all with different models, right? The Georgia Trust for Local News, there's different models, but there's a value of going deep in one state, right? We get to know each other. We get to support each other. The different papers that cover different parts of the state can share resources with each other. I think that if we can do this well, we build a critical mass, and we're here for the long term in Michigan. And then we can be an ally to other projects that are in other states.
I have a feeling your phone's going to be ringing and your inbox is going to be full. Jason Franklin, general partner and a Michiganer. You just said it? You just said it.
Yeah.
At Michigan Independent Media Group, one of the nation's most active philanthropic leaders in supporting journalism and democracy, and good old friend of the E&P, second-time show guest, Berl Schwartz, the founder and longtime editor and publisher of City Pulse in Lansing. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. We're going to keep an eye on this, and we're looking forward to just seeing growth and exciting things out of Lansing. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mike.